Most people focus on the top 10% of marketing. Let's look at why the opportunity is actually in the bottom 90%. I'm Spencer Powell, CEO at BuilderFunnel. We're on our way to generating $1 billion in revenue for our clients. Hit subscribe to follow along. Okay, what do we even mean by the top 10% of marketing? Basically, if you look at 100% of your possible customers, the top 10% is actually divided up into two categories. And this was external research done, and they basically said that there are 3% of active buyers, meaning these are customers that are shopping and they're ready to purchase. So if they're looking to redo their kitchen, they're actively looking for a remodeling company, they're doing their research, they're looking for potential firms that they can get in touch with, and then they want to move forward. Then there's the 7%. They intend to change. They're in this bucket where they're actually wanting to still make a purchase. And so these are people that maybe aren't proactively looking for a solution right this very second, but they are still in this top percent where they're active buyers of the service. When we're marketing to the top 10%, that's usually where the low-hanging fruit is, but it's also the most competitive. And so that's why the biggest opportunity in marketing is actually typically in the lower 90%. So let's break that down. Let's break down the bottom 90% because again, this is where some big opportunity is. So it's basically divided into thirds. The first 30% have a need, but not enough to act. The second 30%, they don't have a need at all. So they don't need to remodel their kitchen. They don't need a new bathroom. They don't need to build a custom home. And then the third 30%, they're not interested in your company. So let's go back to the first third. 30% have a need, basically not enough to act. If you think about the people that are in this bucket, these are a great audience to engage now so that down the road, when that need becomes strong enough that they actually do want to do something about it and they do want to take action, you have had this timeline to build a relationship with them. So you can build trust, you can build some rapport, you can even connect with them, but you understand that they actually aren't in that active buying segment right now. So this 30% is a big opportunity. And if you hear a lot of our content, we talk about lead nurturing. This is the perfect group to nurture. They're interested, they do have a need, but it just hasn't crossed that threshold to like, hey, I'm ready to fork over some money, make this investment, solve this problem. The pain typically just isn't high enough. And so I love this bucket. This bucket of 30% is where you can create a ton of future sales. Then we want to look at that second 30%. The second 30%, they don't have a need, but let's say somebody just purchased a home, they're growing their family, they've lived there for a few years, they don't have a need. But then as their kids grow up, they realize, oh wow, it'd be great to really expand this whole outdoor area. Or they might say, gosh, now that the kids are bigger, we need to finish the basement. So when you think about that 30% currently don't have a need, they may have a need in the future. And so when we think about building a brand, this is part of what that looks like, right? And I try to think about some of the biggest brands. When I think about branding at a local level, sometimes it just feels like there's a disconnect. And you think, well, why would someone ever remember me or associate anything with me? Because you typically think of big brands like Apple and Nike and everything. And you might see a Nike ad over and over and over again. And you may never make a purchase. But then maybe you sign up for a basketball rec league and you need a new pair of tennis shoes, and so then you go and buy some Nikes. It wasn't just because all of a sudden right in that moment you saw the ad and you're like, oh, I'm clicking this, I'm buying the Nikes. It's because you've seen all of the past associations, you've seen all of that beforehand. So all of that work that they did months, years, or maybe even decades before your purchase, that's what the branding effect, basically. That's what they were doing there. And so you can do the same thing with your remodeling firm or your custom home building company, and you can add value and educate and connect and showcase your work and inspire people to create a bigger home, a better home, a more unique way of doing a layout. But if you're adding value and you're building that brand, you can then turn some of that 30% that currently don't have a need, but years into the future they will have a need, and then you're right there in front of them. And then the last 30% are those that are not interested in your company at all. So typically this isn't going to be an audience that you're going to pull a lot of active buyers in the future from. Because one, maybe they had a bad experience with your company, or maybe they heard about a bad experience. But the other thing that could happen is that these people might just be the DIYers, right? That they love doing it themselves. They're just never going to hire a company to do the work. They're going to figure it out. And so they're in that 30% of your universe of customers. They're just never going to buy. So as you think about expanding your brand and building your marketing program for the long haul, yes, we want to target the active buyers in the short term, but if we have a strategy in place that also allows us to reach out and connect with the 60% that are not ready to make an active purchase, we can actually move them into your sales funnel and making a purchase from you in the future. That's what I got for you today. Don't forget to check out Remodeler Growth Community. We'll have a link down below. You can apply to join. And with that, we'll see you next time here on Builder Funnel TV.